In the small forgotten town of the Elder Grove, nestled deep within the thick woods, stood an old inn called the Hollow. The inn had a reputation for being quaint, cozy, and unsettlingly eerie. Travelers passing through often remarked on the strange energy in the air, the way the shadows seemed to stretch longer, and the persistent feeling of being watched. But the most peculiar thing about the Hollow was room 13, a room so steeped in mystery that it was almost always left vacant. One stormy evening, a young woman named Clara arrived at the Hollow, seeking refuge from the rain. She was on a journey hoping to escape the memories of a recent heartbreak. The innkeeper, a frail old man with eyes that seemed to have seen too much, greeted her with a hesitant smile. "Welcome to the Hollow," he said in a voice as creaky as the floorboards beneath them. "We only have one room left for the night." "That sounds perfect," Clara replied, eager to get out of the cold. "I really don't mind. Which room is it?" The innkeeper's smile faltered. "It's room 13, miss. Are you sure? It's really not for everyone." Clara, tired and soaked to the bone, shrugged off the old man's warning. "A room is a room. I will take it." The innkeeper handed her the keys with trembling hands. "Very well then, be careful with the mirror." Clara paused. "The mirror?" "Yes," the innkeeper whispered, leaning in as if he was sharing a dark secret. "The mirror in room 13. Do not look into it after midnight." Clara laughed nervously, assuming it was just a local legend or a way to spook guests. "I'll keep that in mind, thank you." She made her way up to the winding staircase. The sound of the rain hammering against the windows echoed in the empty halls. When she reached room 13, she hesitated for a moment before unlocking the door. The room was small but cozy, with a large four-poster bed draped in crimson velvet. But what caught Clara's eyes was the large ornate mirror hanging on the wall opposite the bed. It was a beautiful antique, the frame carved with intricate patterns of vines and roses. Though there was something unsettling about its presence. Opposite the bed, it was a beautiful antique, the frame carved with intricate patterns of vines and roses. Though there was something unsettling about its presence. Ignoring the uneasy feeling in her chest, Clara set her bags down and changed into a dry clothes. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the mirror, wondering what could be so terrifying about it. Midnight was hours away and she felt foolish for even considering the innkeeper's warning. As the night wore on, the storm outside grew fiercer. Thunder rumbled through the walls and the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls. Clara tried to sleep, but every time she closed her eyes, she felt a strange pull, like the mirror was beckoning her, calling out in a voice only she could hear. Unable to resist, Clara glanced at the clock. It was 11:59 p.m. She sat up, her heart pounding, her breath quickening as she turned to face the mirror. Midnight struck, and the room plunged into an eerie silence. The storm outside seemed to pause, as if the very world was holding its breath. In the mirror, Clara saw her reflection, but something was wrong. The reflection didn't mimic her movements. It stood still, staring back at her with eyes that were not her own. The reflection's lips curled into a sinister smile, and Clara felt a chill crawl up her spine. Suddenly, the reflection stepped forward, as if trying to break free from the glass. Clara backed away, but her reflection continued to move, pressing its hands against the surface of the mirror. The glass began to ripple like water, distorting the reflection into a version of herself. A very soft voice echoed in the room. "Come closer, Clara. Let me in." Paralyzed by fear, Clara watched as the reflection's hands began to emerge from the mirror, fingers clawing at the air. She could feel the cold, deadly chill emanating from the mirror, and a sense of dread washed over her. The reflection's face twisted into a horrific grin, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Summoning all her strength, Clara broke free from her trance and longed for the door. But as she reached the handle, she felt a cold hand grab her arm. She looked down in terror to see the reflection's hand, now fully out of the mirror, clutching her with an iron grip. "No!" Clara screamed, kicking frantically. The reflection's grip tightened, pulling her closer to the mirror. The surface of the glass rippled violently, like a portal to some otherworldly realm. In a final desperate act, Clara grabbed a heavy candlestick from the nightstand and swung it at the mirror with all her might. The mirror shattered with a deafening crash, sending shards of glass flying across the room. The reflection let out a blood-curdling scream as it was sucked back into the mirror, which dissolved into a pool of black liquid before evaporating into thin air. Panting and trembling, Clara fell to the floor. The room was now eerily quiet. The storm outside had ceased, and the inn was silent once more. She looked around, realizing the mirror was gone, nothing but an empty space remaining on the wall. Clara fled the room, running down the stairs and out of the inn without looking back. She never spoke of what happened that night, but she knew one thing was certain: she would never look into a mirror at midnight again. The next morning, the innkeeper found room 13 empty, the door slightly open. He entered cautiously, noticing the shattered glass on the floor. With a sigh, he bent down to pick up a shard, his hands shaking as he whispered to himself, "The mirror will return. It always does." And as the clock struck midnight the following night, in that very same room, a new mirror appeared, its surface smooth and inviting, waiting for the next unsuspecting guest to gaze into its depths.